You guys hear me? I don't know if I can say.
Lately, have you found yourself wandering away from your family up to your north room, tuning into your ModPo stuff, and staying up there for hours, and finding yourself dancing and waving your shirt around your head and feeling maybe a little trapped? Or have you found yourself being led by your instincts lately? Or have you found yourself wandering into supermarkets late at night looking for Walt Whitman and wondering where his beard is pointing and where America is going, and wandering all night? Have you found yourself sitting at desk trying to condense, trying to figure out whether this job or the job you do during the day is the real work? Maybe ignoring the advice of every patriarch who passes by. Have you lately felt like you're getting ready to say a benediction against prose and property? Have you found yourself lately not really wanting to say anything in particular, not wanting to pass along information to anybody, not really wanting to say something that someone else should know, but just wanting to be there with someone, just to feel them there, just to detain them so that you could be exactly who you are? Have you felt lately kind of that you wanted to get abandoned in a story made of trees, and then you found out that that abandonment is probably the best thing that's ever happened to you? Well, if you're starting to feel those things, you've come to the right place. You've tuned into the right channel, because this is a ModPo webcast live from Philadelphia at the Kelly Writers House in the center of the University of Pennsylvania, and here we are. You've come to the right place, and the people in the room are not laughing at all at my crazy intro, and Julia is wondering what the hell has happened to me. Hello, Julia.
Good evening, Al.
That was a straight person's, like, yeah, okay, what's the joke? Lily is on the phone already, on the phone. Hello, Lily. Good evening. Jason's got the portable mic. Hello, Jason. How are you? It's great to see you, Jason. And we have, still muted, maybe she should unmute, Allie Castleman, who's somewhere in New York. Hello, Allie.
Hello, Allie. Hey, Al. Hey, Al. Everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
We have hello, Amarie.
Hello, Amarie.
Zach, we're getting
it.
Fix that for us. And Anna. All right. Emily, you're muted.
Hello. You're ready.
Can't hear you, Emily. Try that again. And Erica Kaufman up there at Bard College. Are you in Bard tonight?
Yep, I'm up here, Bard.
And you're muted too. Zach's going to figure out the audio. All right. And we have in the room, we have Connie, and we have Kamara, and Nea, and Nea from Italy, and from Milan, who's been here for many months. About to go back on October 1st. He's like dreaming and music at this point. When he gets back to Italy, it's all going to fall apart. And we have Eric here. Good evening, Eric. And we have Dan and Michael. Hello, Dan and Michael. We have Dan Spinelli, who's joining us. This is like a record. We have Omar, who's a long-time webcast guy, but first time live at the Writers House guy. And we have Hillary here. Hillary Miller Krause, who was my student at the University of Pennsylvania, embarrassing me back in the, let's just say, an earlier decade. And Roger Krause is here, and Sammy Krause with 3 Krauses. So it's all we have Zach and Zach and lots of people tuning in. And geez, we have all kinds of comments and questions. But it turns out that Somebody's already called, and
called,
Lily, just bring that person up in a second, but I just want to say to everybody that you can post to the thread that's associated with the webcast tonight. What is that thread called, Julia?
Discussion during and after the 9/17 live webcast.
Okay, so that's a subforum, and you can create your own thread. Julia will be watching that. She's also two windows at once. I think you'll be looking at Twitter as well.
That's right. So if you want to tweet, just use the hashtag ModPo Live.
ModPo Live. Great. And you can call 215-573-9752. And the second caller, not the first, because the first one called in the middle of my little weird riff. But the second caller will receive, we will mail to you, the second caller, whoever you are, a copy of Charles Bernstein's relatively new book, Recalculating. We're studying Charles Bernstein in chapter 9.1. And the students in English 88 are thinking, why don't we get books for answering questions? I guess you could at some point. So, Lily, who do we have on the phone? That's great. Bring him on up. Philip, how are you?
I'm fine now. I got his book. I would have read.
Yeah, well, you didn't know. I mean, I just sort of winged it there. But Philip, it's great to hear from you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think of Catholic bells, and then if you've got a question, pose it, and we'll get a few answers.
Well, basically, I had a comment. I just wanted to see what other people thought about it. Lily said near the end of the about the idea that the bell represented democracy, and I thought that was really spot on. Because that's the essence of the little C, Julia says, because it's a little C, Catholic, really means universal. And I couldn't help but think of the scene in Hunchback of Notre Dame, when Quasimodo swings down and Esmeralda carries her back up to the tower and starts ringing the bell and shouting, "Sanctuary!"
Yeah.
You know, that's the solution.
Yeah.
That's the freedom of democracy. And in that case, actually happened to be freedom that was based on the big C Catholic tradition. So it all kind of fits together.
No, that's fantastic. That's really good. And by the way, Lily is always spot on. I've never known Lily a long time now. She's never spot off. And Lily, do you want to say something about Catholic bells in response to it? Is Lily's mic up?
I think that first, I don't know the only person to come up with that parallel about Catholic bells and democracy. So, but I think that what's democratic about it is part of the openness that we celebrate about this, like, Whitmanian mode is open in the sense that it tries to reach out and include everyone. And it's interesting to take hearing as a sense, which is basically what's so open about the bells, and equate it to democracy, almost like everyone's able to hear by hearing, a sense that they can't really turn off.
Such a good comment. I would like to throw it to Emily. Catholic bells. What's democratic about that? I mean, it starts, though I'm no Catholic, so it starts negative. It's sort of describes himself as not belonging. And that seems like an auspicious start to a poem that we're saying is democratic. What do you think, Emily?
Well, actually, I'm having audio problems.
Okay, so we're having problems with audio of all the Google Hangouts?
Yeah. I think there's a broader web.
Okay. So Zach's going to keep working on that. So we're going to turn to the room then. So Samara is shaking her head because she's not so familiar with Catholic bells. I'm going to pass that. But Anybody want to volunteer? Who would like to say something about Catholic bells? This is in ModPo Plus. Extra. It's extra. That's why the cross is open. We only do what we're supposed to do. We don't go beyond that. Julia, do you want to say something in response to Philip? Then we'll get Philip back in.
Yeah, Phil, I love, and I think I talked about this in the video, and I got it out. I love this Catholic, but I also love William's love for church. And he loves the Catholicism and inclusion, but he also loves the idea that there's this space that, in its meaning, includes like the whole town, the whole neighborhood, and just keeps on expanding the way that these sound waves expand in the air. You can imagine them circling out.
Philip, does the poem make you happy? Does it make you feel good?
Yeah, it makes me feel just like me and that's back in Notre Dame, actually.
So Michael, I think Dan has something he wants to say. So let's bring the mic over to Michael, who can speak for Dan. Daniel doesn't say he says he listens hard. Yeah, that's right on. It's William Carlos Williams' birthday today. He was born on September 17th, 1883. And so maybe since it's his birthday, why don't we listen to the voice of the amazing poet? And this is the end of Catholic Bells. And then I'll ask Jason to comment on the sound of this old person who's had one stroke and he can barely say the word ring. And he says it, I don't know how many times, Julia. 1, 2, 3.
to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be tied up for the next few weeks, and you may not hear a lot from me, but I sure want to say thank you.
Well, Philip, thank you for being such a part of it, and congratulations. That's terrific. Thanks. And you're in Texas, right?
Yes, but I got a job in Missouri.
So you're going to be moving.
Yep.
Well, I hope when you get all settled in Missouri that your new bosses are not going to keep you so tied up that you can't wander up to your north room and wave your shirt around your head.
No doubt. It's a state job. They don't want me doing any overtime.
Okay. Well, good night, Philip. Thank you so much.
Good night.
All
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
I'd like to, before the next call comes in, I'd like to invite someone to come up and sit in this extra seat that we have. And I think it's going to be Hillary Miller Krause. Come on up, Hillary. Come on up, Hillary. You don't mind. She's doing it. There she is. All right. Here we go. You're at the table, Hillary. Oh, my goodness. How are you? You're a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, and graduates mostly realize that once they graduate, they never get put in the student hot seat. And, you know, some 30 years later, I guess that's what happens. 28 years anyway, sorry. Yeah, it doesn't always happen, but it's happened to you. So you'll be. So whoever's going to ask the next question, they're scared for you. Oh, it's going to be fine. Lily, we have someone on the phone. Why don't we turn to Julia to see what's going on in the discussion forums? And meanwhile, Zach is trying to figure out what's going on with the Google Hangouts. We'll try to get to our folks there as soon as we can.
It sounds like the echo is so bad that people actually aren't able to hear us at the moment. So mostly I'm responding to folks saying, it's working on it, hang on.
So the echo, our echo.
Yeah, it looks like it's making it out to the webcast. So to anyone who can hear me right now, I'm sorry, we're working on it.
Sorry about the echo. Yeah. Okay.
So we don't have any questions yet.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take the phone then.
This is John calling from Seattle, and he wants to talk about supermarket in California.
All right. Great. Get you a copy of the poem. Hello, John.
Well, hello.
Hi. What's your last name? Do you mind saying?
I don't. My last name is M-E-J-I-A, Mejia.
John Mejia. Well, hello, John. So you have a question about supermarket in California.
Yeah, I do. So, you know, I thought it was a great Whitman-esque, what would we call it? An homage or something. But I noticed that when you guys discussed it, nobody mentioned that he also referenced Garcia Lorca.
Yes.
And I thought that little reference just made this poem even queerer, if you know I could put it that way.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the and so I was wondering, was there even actually an old man in the store? Was it just the book that he had, the Whitman book, and was it just Ginsburg cruising, you know, on a late night?
So if he was cruising, John, what is the connection between cruising and there not actually being somewhere? Is it simply that he has a desire, a fantasy that he'll meet people, but it's in his head?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, you know, reference was made that there was an old guy in the store. Now, there may have been, there may not. I'm just wondering, he said he did reference that he had the book with him and it made him feel a little silly. And so I'm just wondering, was the poem simply just more gay, more queer than not?
Yeah. Well, Hillary, what do you think of what's going on there? Do you think it's possible that we're to think that he doesn't see anybody there, and that everything that he sees is imagined? What do you think of that?
Well, I think he's imagining the Walt Whitman part of it.
Right. Yeah.
I think he's having a fun dream,
Mm-hmm.
but he might be in the supermarket,
Mm-hmm.
and he might be seeing the people walking, and I thought it was, I could see him either walking and thinking of it and maybe carrying the book with him, or I could see him in his house or in his bedroom, whatever, you know, kind of before he goes to sleep or something, imagining the whole scene.
Yeah.
I could see either way.
Jason, you've got the mic. Why don't we pass this to Eric, see if Eric has an opinion about Whitman in the supermarket. John is saying that the poem is queered even more so if we think about it this way.
I mean, I think we're now in such an amazingly different moment of American history, and I really wish Alan could have been here with us to see it. A moment where it could have been normative for a gay person to be partnered, married, living in Berkeley. I mean, not that one wants to just buy into the whole consumerist society, but this is a moment of such profound and radical alienation. Homosexuality is still deeply criminalized behavior. And into this supermarket at night, this space of enormous plenitude, of Whitmanian enormity, enters the poet who has indeed in his own experience had visions which appeared real to him, specifically of Blake in his apartment. And he has another vision of his poetic forefather and of his poetic stepbrother. And together, they're all left out, even though they're all together. And here they are. This supermarket, so incredibly rich in poetry, is also a space of radical alienation and potential, and that store detective really stands in for the entirety of the police state.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Zach indicates to me that we might be good with our people on Google Hangouts. So why don't we go to Erica Kaufman? Hello, Erica. Erica, can you hear us? So you want to unmute your mic? What's
Okay,
that?
how does this sound?
Oh.
Okay, sorry,
Okay,
Erica.
I'm sorry, Erica. Apparently you're the source of the problem. So we're going to skip you for a second, and we'll go to Anna. Hello, Anna. You've got your hand over your face. How are you?
We'll see in a second.
Anna, you have to unmute yourself.
I did.
Anna, can you hear us?
I can.
Can you talk?
Can you talk?
Yes.
Apparently not. Amaris, can you try to unmute yourself and say hello?
Hello.
Hello, Amaris.
We can hear Anna perfectly fine. So.
Okay, I think we're still having problems with that, Zach. So we'll get back to you. Okay. Hillary Miller Krauss was up here at the table, and she did more than a credible job. What do you think of Ginsburg? Did we talk about Ginsburg all those years ago? I don't think so. Yeah, we did.
No.
No, we didn't.
If we did,
What was your what's it been like encountering Ginsburg in ModPo?
I love this. I kind of don't know as much as some of you other people about the whole history of it all, and so I'm sort of more reading the poem. I'm enjoying the Whitman part about it because we just read Whitman, so I don't remember everything that you taught me.
You don't remember everything I taught you. John Mejia, are you there?
I am here.
Yeah. So do you want to get a final word about this poem, and what do you like about it so much? And is the end sad?
I thought the end was grand, actually. I mean, he took it into that Olympian mode, and I just found it moving because the whole lineage of course, to Whitman, the whole thing that was just mentioned by the gentleman there speaking about the time, the time of criminalization of homosexuality, and just where he was coming from. And he was already liberated at that time in his own mind, just as Whitman was in his time about his sexuality. So no, I just find it a grand, wonderful, amazing romp. And I didn't find it sad. I found it profound, and I love that he leaped into that kind of Olympian mode, if I can say it that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right word. John, is this your first time doing ModPo?
It is, yeah.
How's it been so far?
I am obsessed with it. I love it. It's such an amazing way to be able to interact with great people, all the TAs. It's like a really cool reality show.
It's like a cool reality show. That's great, John. I know Seattle's a long way, but maybe you'll make plans to come visit us at the Writers' House at some point.
I would love to. Yeah, thank you. If I do, I'll drop in and share a mug of coffee with you.
Please do. I have my this mug right here. Can you see it?
I can. I'll bring a that mug.
Bring a what? That? We can do this. We can do this and that, John and Al.
There you are.
That's
there
cool, man. Okay, thanks for calling.
Okay.
And have a great night. You've still got plenty of time left out there for a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was great. So, Hillary, let's give Hillary some snaps for hanging out at the table. And why don't we invite Anea to come on up? And thank you. And meanwhile, Anea is getting himself set up. We'll go to Julia. Zach, you'll let me know when we can try again with our remote friends. Okay.
So welcome back, everybody. Really sorry about the echo. Thank you for posting and being good-humored about it. If you missed some of the discussion, which it sounds like you did, and some of you are being really good-natured about it, I want to invite folks who maybe spoke tonight to post some of what you're thinking about in the discussion forums. We were just talking about a supermarket in California. But I want to talk about a really great question that came up on the discussion forum just now from Marie Loeffler about Lorraine Niedeker's poem, You Are My Friend.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a nice question. She says, I was wondering if any of you felt that Lorraine Niedeker may have left a thank you note or perhaps a copy of the poem You Are My Friend in that box. That poem has been on my mind for several days. So I think the box she's talking about is the mending kit in that poem.
You are my friend, you bring me peaches and the high bush cranberry, you carry my fishbowl, you water my worms, you patch my boot with your mending kit, nothing in it but my hand. So Marie is saying that the hand is the writing in the poem itself, which is a mending kit. Mm-hmm. You like that, don't you, that reading?
I love that idea because I've been thinking a lot about Niedeker today. I was on a thread with someone about foreclosure, and we were thinking about Lorraine Niedeker's relationship to things, to the thing, to the object. And this poem it feels like a poem about loss, but now with Marie's comment, I'm actually thinking about how the poem is about gain and about presence.
What does she gain?
About the poem itself being like what you gain or what you get.
Mm. Hey, pal, how are you?
I'm good.
Lean forward to the mic. You're from Milan, but you've been hanging out in Philadelphia, and it's great that you've been involved in ModPo. You are a biomedical engineer.
Yes, I am.
Not exactly a natural poetry guy. What do you think of Lorraine Niedeker?
I actually pretty like her, but I found some of her pieces pretty difficult for me.
You found it difficult?
Yeah.
So you heard Marie talk about how the thing in the mending kit might be the poem. What do you think of that?
Yes, that was my reading too, but I went a step forward from that, and I think that even the you is in the end the act of writing, because
wait a minute. You, the other person,
yes,
who many of us think is Lorraine herself, she's talking to herself, you think you is the poem.
Yeah.
She's talking to her poem, You Are My Friend.
I love that reading too.
Yes, so given the nature...
You want to take over? Come on. Give this guy another PhD.
I don't know, maybe I will do one.
You need to stay. No Italy.
No
Stay.
Italy?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell that to my wife.
You need to have her sign on to ModPo, and then when you climb up to your north room and you do your ModPo, it'll be okay.
No, I came up with this idea with the suggestion in the video discussion that the poem in the end is about self-empowerment and self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
So all those things that this friend does basically help Lorraine to provide for herself.
Yeah.
So the fishbowl alludes to keeping food on the table.
Yeah.
Manning the boots.
Yeah.
Means making one able to move even when difficult times come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the end, maybe her friend is her writing. That's her occupation. That's what.
That's fantastic.
Helps her.
Snaps for this guy. What do you think? He's good. Thank you. Stay there for a minute if you don't mind. Lily, we have someone on the phone, but before I just want to invite Julia to just read off some of the comments that you're seeing either in the Twitter feed or in the discussion forum. Is that a hard thing to do? Just let's hear what people are saying.
Yeah. So Christina Rojo on Twitter says, is Ginsburg's poetic half-brother Lorca?
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice question.
We heard half-brother earlier. I think Eric mentioned that.
Karen Elenier says, hi, Eric Weinstein.
Karen is waiting for Stein in the course. She's so excited about Stein.
Then a lot of the tweets are before we fix the echo, so we got...
There's an echo.
We got some angry Babylonian gods running wild in the audio system. Okay, we can hear now.
That's the problem.
Okay, we can hear now. Whitman in the supermarket.
All right,
so
good.
There's a lot of that.
That's great. Lily, who do we have on the phone? Okay, good old Mark. He's ready to go. You want to bring Mark up? Hello, Mark.
Hi, Al. Hi, Julia. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
how's it going? How's the evening in North Carolina? You got some decent weather?
It's warm. It's humid. It's North Carolina. What can I say?
Yeah. So, are you still at work, or did you get home yet?
I'm always at work.
You're still at work, Mark. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just for another month or so.
Yeah, that's right. Congratulations, Mark's going to have a big transition. So, Mark, why don't I invite you? We're going to go around and we're going to get Zach. How are we doing on the Hangouts? Are we still stuck with them? No, nothing. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm sorry. I see all your wonderful faces, but they're waving. This is great. Oh, it's nice to see you, though. This is exactly where I like you. Thumb-sized little rectangles there in my world. What do you think, Julia? Is that? No,
we have to let them speak.
Yeah, Emily's got like a big frown face now because of that nasty comment of mine. Okay, Mark, why don't you toss out 3 short tips about the writing assignment, and then we'll get a few other tips. This is for those of you who are writing an essay, a close reading of Emily Dickinson's I Taste a Liquor Never Brewed from Tankard Scooped in Pearls. Not all the vats upon the Rhine yield such an alcohol, etc. Go ahead, Mark.
You know, the big tip I was going to give is not to stress over it.
Don't stress.
I mean, it's a simple 500-word read. It's not a term paper. And I've noticed, in the forums, I notice a lot of people stressing out over it, and I need to go find definitions, and I need to, and I think that I just wanted to reinforce the idea that all we're trying to do is to open up a sense of being able to have a conversation with Emily Dickinson about this poem. When she speaks to you in this way, what is she saying to you?
A conversation with Emily Dickinson, Mark, but also a conversation with your peers and fellow family members in the big ModPo community, because basically the whole point of this thing is to get these peer reviews done so that the poems go into the discussion forums and we can all talk about this poem that isn't otherwise in the syllabus. Sort of like, can the people crowdsource an interpretation that is just as good or better than the interpretations offered by the official TAs? And the answer is yes, if we all put our minds to it. And you all, implicit in what you say, Mark, is also the fact that this is ungraded and non-credit. Ungraded in the sense that it's peer-reviewed, rather than in a lot of MOOCs, you actually get an 80 or a 60 or 100 or whatever. We don't do that at all. If you're looking to get a certificate, and we're not necessarily saying that that's what you should be doing in ModPo, but if you want a certificate to take pride in having completed the course,
what does that mean?
Done well necessarily, but completed it, written an essay, that's all you need to do is write one. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking back to when I did this assignment 2 years ago, and and I came into this with no background, no toehold whatsoever, and just going, and I see a lot of that, going on, and I think it's just, I just encourage folks to just take a chance with it.
Take a chance.
Just sit with it, listen to it, read it, speak it aloud, let it speak to you, and and don't stress over it. We have to remember this is supposed to be fun, and that's what it's there for. It's to enjoy this.
Thank you, Mark.
It's really just that simple. So
yeah, thanks, Mark. Thank you so much for calling. You know what we're going to do is
shout out to everybody who's hopelessly lost.
Yes, make sure you go to Hopelessly Lost because Mark is there all the time. Mark,
That's
thank
because
you.
I'm hopelessly lost.
Thank you so much for everything you do for ModPo.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Al.
much.
Thank you, Julia.
All right, so Mark's going to hang up, and I'd like while I recite the facts of the paper, I'm then going to turn to Dan Bergman, and then I think Jason himself might have something to say. And Zach, how are we doing with the Google Hangouts? Not there yet? Okay. Maybe Inea, did you write one of these last year? Did you write essays? If you didn't, it's okay.
No, not last year, but yes, I'm doing it now.
You're doing it now? Okay.
Yeah, because
All
I
right.
want the certificate now.
You want the certificate a year later. That's great. So the essays are due at 9 a.m. Philadelphia time on Sunday, the 21st of September, which is what, the equinox? That's a good day. Then during week 3, while we talk about Chapter 2, the rise of modernism in the course, in the syllabus, that will be the beginning, that same moment, 9 a.m. Philadelphia time on 9/21, will be the same moment that we can, that's Chapter 3 beginning, and then the next day on Monday, 9/22 at 9 a.m., we will begin peer reviews. And at that point, everyone, not just those who wrote papers, but everyone eventually in the discussion forums is invited to read a few of the essays and comment on them. These will constitute the peer reviews. I'll be sending an email about this. So you have until 9 a.m. Sunday, and that's a hard deadline. It's a hard deadline because that's what the platform demands. We have to shut it down in order to release to the peer reviews. So please look at the clock, look at the calendar. Julia and I and Zach cannot do magic and undo the deadline, so you have to get it in by 9 a.m. So I would try to do it like 10 hours earlier if you possibly can, because there are all kinds of glitches possible. So while I've been reciting facts, why don't we turn to Dan, who via Michael has something to add about the paper, maybe, about the essay. Michael?
Dan says, 2 years ago it was my first essay ever, and and it was so exciting to think about each picture she evoked. Reviewing others is a wonderful way to connect. And
Thank
then
you,
he
Dan.
also wants to say to the people on the Google Hangout that they could write a word or two really large and hold it up to the camera.
That's a brilliant idea. They're just sitting there looking at us. They could actually do something. Go ahead, Anna. Do you have a magic marker in that apartment of yours in Boston? She's looking around for a magic marker. Thank you, Dan. And it is true. 2 years ago, you wrote a paper, your first essay, and it was fine. And it turned out, was that the essay that I happened to read? Michael, do you remember? Yes. I happened, out of the thousands of essays submitted, to read Dan's. And I said something like, this is pretty good. and that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Jason, do you have something quick to add about the papers?
Yeah. I think that Dan's point about looking forward to the peer reviews and seeing your essay as the opening of a conversation is a really good way to think about it. And as well, to not worry about being right, but to think more that you are looking at the night sky and find a constellation that you perceive and let it and show it to us. So make sure you read the whole poem first and think about it in its entirety, how things towards the end connect to things towards the beginning. So don't think about the poem necessarily as a linear thing that you need to explicate.
Yes, certainly in 500 words you don't have the time to do a line-by-line explication. That's not what this is about. Thank you, Jason. Well, we need a mic for that. Yeah. Back to Dan.
says, by the third one, I was writing to my reviewers.
Oh, nice. By the way, Ray Maxwell says, let your essay be a letter to Emily. T. De Los Reyes says, how I learned to stop worrying about the essay and love the poem.
Nice.
Karen Carlson says, once I stopped worrying about the essay and just played with it, my ModPo experience expanded and became magical. Stephanie says, yes, the democratization of understanding. Right on, Al. Samantha says, don't stress on the essay. Still going to have a glass of wine before I start tonight.
Ooh, I love these kinds of
We're
students.
not officially endorsing that.
Are we not officially endorsing wine while you're writing about Emily Dickinson? I taste a liquor never brewed. You should be drinking air, actually. I don't know what this wine stuff is. That's pretty great. Boy, those tweeters are just, they're raging on Twitter. Okay, man, say one thing about the experience so far. Have you started the paper, the essay?
I've submitted it today.
You've submitted it today, and how does that feel, Mr. Biomedical Engineer, super accomplished, big timer?
I don't know. I'm looking forward for the reviews to get judged.
That's great. Can we give snaps to this wonderful man? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, so I think it might be Kamara's time to come up to the table. Come on, Kamara, go for it. Yeah, she can do it. 215-573-9752. So, Julia, what's on your mind? What is it about ModPo that you want to say with all these people watching and listening? What do we need to convey?
Well, I really like essay writing time because for a lot of people it's their first experience writing this sort of essay. And I say that no matter what kind of preparation you have, whether you have many graduate degrees under your belt or none, or if you're brand new to poetry or you've been thinking about poetry for years and years. This essay, it is unique. You don't get a lot of opportunities in life to really write truly essayistically. Literally, the word essay means to try. It means to,
does it really?
To walk around. It does. It comes. Well, Zach can back me up on this because he speaks French, right? It comes from the French word meaning to try. So we're not looking for the closed, definitive argument. We're looking for you to try, literally try something new.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm thinking about.
That's really cool. Kamara is a Dickinsonian.
Yes, I am.
She is a Dickinsonian.
Definitely.
She is willing, unlike a lot of ModPo people who are like, I like Whitman, I like Dickinson, what's all this hubbub about comparing them? We can have them both. We do have them both. There's no problem there.
I love Walt. Walt loves me. That's okay.
Walt definitely loves you.
He definitely loves me.
Yeah? So, but you're a Dickinsonian. I guess it would be fun to hear from you some reasons why you're a Dickinsonian. And Dan Bergman's a Dickinsonian also, just for the record. So, why?
I'm a Dickinsonian because I think she gives me more power than Walt does. I think while reading her poems, I always think of the poem "Tell the Truth, Tell It Slant," because together we work together to figure out what the truth is. I'm a partner with Dickinson, while as with Walt, I'm a receiver of his love and really only a receiver. Yes, he's telling me I have power, but Dickinson literally gives me the power and helps me work with the power.
And how does she give you the power?
She gives me the power with her poems. She gives me the power to think through her poems and understand something in my own interpretation and with her words.
So you have to go halfway. You have to do, as Anna is always saying, you have to do the work.
Yeah, and as we talked about in class, work is not a bad thing. Work is a stimulating thing. Work is a social thing.
Mm-hmm. It is a social thing. Close reading is a social act. Jason, would you give Sammy the mic? Sammy, you're on the spot. Are you a Whitmanian or a Dickinsonian? Again, you don't have to try this at home. You shouldn't try this at home. We don't have to be a Dickinsonian. It's not like a tastes great, less filling kind of argument. You don't have to do it. But Sammy, let's hear him opine.
I'm a Dickinsonian.
You're another Dickinsonian.
Yeah.
Okay. Say why. Omar, are you a Dickinsonian? You are too. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have to get a Whitmanian in the room. Tell us why.
I just find working with her poems very rewarding. because they're a lot harder to kind of get through at first, but once you get them, it's I don't know, I like it a lot. And with Whitman, they're beautiful and really fun, but like you don't have that same sense of satisfaction.
Interesting. Lily, do you want to, I know you're a Dickinsonian too, but do you want to say something to reclaim, at least in this room, a bit of Walt?
Sure. I think that, well, something we've talked about it before, but I think it's always bears repeating when we're comparing them, is that it's ultimately a false dichotomy, because we talk a lot about that they're both radical poets, but radical in different ways. And I think if part of your radicalism is rejecting what's normal or normative about your society, then you'll find ultimately something in common. And so I think that Walt and Whitmanians, like, what's noble sort of about their project is an interest in radically including everyone as a way to skirt a normativity that puts up boundaries between people where they're false ultimately, just based on race or what class level you're born into or something like that.
Let's just tick off, as a reminder, the Whitmanians that we read this week. So that would be Williams and Ginsburg. And we're represented in Williams by some real exuberant and Whitmanian, although heterosexual, as opposed to homosexual or multisexual, omnisexual, but and Ginsburg, Supermarket in California, where he specifically mentions Whitman. And then among the Dickinsonians, we have Laurie Niedecker, we have Ray Armentrout, and we have Sid Corman, who's not really Dickinsonian, but kind of goes both ways, I guess you could say. Is that a fair representation? Did we tilt to one side or another? It seems pretty fair, right?
Well, I think so, because I mean, I know less about other poetry that might not be as close to the avant-garde or boundary pushing in American poetry. It's like that might be near the syllabus but not quite on the syllabus. So I think that if you're looking for ways that you take a Whitmanian sense of being open, omnipresent, and sort of wildly lyric with your lines and stuff, I think we made some good choices about who falls into that line, but also has something formally interesting to say too, or using that form in an interesting way, or updating it to their time period, like Ginsburg.
Jason, you want to add something to this? Then we're going to go to the phone.
Sure. I think one thing about Dickinson's work is the way it teaches us a way of reading, of empowering us as readers. So maybe I would think of myself as a Dickinsonian Whitmanian, or
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, I mean, I think, and I would urge everyone to do this, after you've really grappled with some Dickinson work, go back and look at Whitman and read against Whitman. Use his field of words as a place for you to do your own work and see
how
emerge.
open it can be.
Yeah.
Eric, if it can be real quick, we'd love to hear, and then we're going to go to the phone.
So, as a Whitmanian,
we have a Whitmanian in the room.
Quite literally, as a member of the Walt Whitman Association, I want to recommend the use
and a South Jersey guy too.
There you go.
Walt spent the last part of his life in Camden, New Jersey. Rock on, Camden! That's that, and the what is the name of the baseball team? That and the River Sharks are like the great things, and formerly Campbell's Soup.
4 words from Williams, I think, can really help people come to terms with those amazing Whitmanian catalogs. So much depends upon. Take those 4 words, put them in your pocket, and when you're reading a Whitmanian catalog, pull them out and look at each of those images as they develop, like a photographic plate developing in front of you, like a train moving from one catalog image to the next. And realize that Walt put an awful lot into each and every one of those. so much depends upon each and every part of his magnificent and massive edifice.
Yeah. And this is a good chance for me to kind of ballyhoo week 3, chapter 2, the first part of chapter 2, because we will re-encounter William Carlos Williams not as a Whitmanian, but as a member of a group of early modernists whose radicalism extended to or focused on the idea of radical condensation, which we now currently in this course associate with Dickinson. Right, so the imagists are very Dickinsonian in their idea that they can ring the words with a W. I guess I'm saying ring the words, and so Williams really goes all kinds of directions, and we're encountering Williams this week as a Whitmanian, but that's not really where he is at his best. Julia?
Chad Jones says, I have to stand up for Whitmanians. There's an implication that Whitman requires less work somehow, which I disagree with. There's a lot more to his work than lists and catalogs. In short, I feel braver, more prepared to face the world after reading Whitman.
Oh, Chad, that's fantastic. You can...
Not a philosophy major, but I took a few English classes, and I ended up taking Craig Dworkin, who I assume you know.
You are a student of Craig Dworkin?
Yes.
Oh,
and he
we
introduced
love
me
Craig
to
Dworkin,
the,
don't we?
Yeah, we love him.
Craig is so interesting. Craig is a chapter 9.3 poet. We're just not yet reading him, but I'm pretty sure we're going to add Craig to ModPo plus chapter 9.3 at some point. So we very much admire Craig, and he's been here, and that's great. So you're his student. He's pretty crazy as a teacher, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I took his class not really knowing anything about modern poetry, and we read Traffic, and then we read Derek
You read
Ballou's,
Kenneth Goldsmith's book Traffic.
Yeah. And then we read Derek Ballou's Local Color, which was just a book full of different colored rectangles. So it was so weird and exciting that it got me to think about form and the different things that, or the way poetry can be so weird, but you can always find things to say about it.
Yeah. Zach, do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
I'm 21.
You're 21. ModPo is full of people who are older than you. There's lots of younger people, but a lot of people are older. And here is a course on some really radical, I shouldn't give this away because this is still chapter 1, but some pretty radical experimental poetry as we go along. Do you have a, would it be your default assumption that people in their 70s and 80s would not be interested in experimental poetry? I mean, is that for the young? Because they would, of course, say the opposite, that these young people now, they don't go for chances. But what's your view about hanging out in ModPo with lots of people who are much older than you? Do you have anything? Have you been in the forums?
Yeah, I have. I have been in there. And I think the interesting thing is that even for me, seeing that radical experimental poetry was sort of off-putting at first. But I think once someone, and that this is the great thing I think about ModPo, is that once someone shows you that you can read difficult work like that, and once you really just say, I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to look at it, then I think anyone can enjoy it.
Well put, Zach. You can, Zach. You can. You had a question, I think Lily mentioned, what was the poem that you were interested in, or the poet?
Oh, Sid Corman, It Isn't for Want.
It isn't for want. It isn't for want of something to say. Well, what's your question about Sid?
Well, it's partially a larger question, but it's just a question about when we go about trying to read what a poem's form means and what its form is doing in meaning.
Yes.
What's the best way, and what are the techniques to approach that? And then the example from It Isn't for Want is that every line I can see is 5 syllables, but I can't figure out why, and like what does that mean? And just
every line
how do
is
we
5
reform?
syllables, which means either that Sid got incredibly lucky, right? Or the poem is highly, highly wrought, even though it seems casual, and so wrought that you could almost describe the limitation of 5 syllables as a constraint. As a constraint. It almost is a constraint poem. And that, once you discover its 5 syllables, you say, oh my God, this guy is really about the form. So here's a big ModPo moment, Zach. So the form of the poem is a radical constraint, and the poem is about what?
It's about poetry.
It's about poetry. Say more. The form of the poem is so radically constrained that the guy is limiting himself to 5 syllables per line. And the poem is about doing something rather than something else. What is this poem about? We're gonna hold the phone.
Okay.
Finally, that's hold the phone is finally not just an idiom, it's literal. Julia, what's this poem about? Ah, here it is. Sorry. What's the poem about, pal? My co-teacher.
Yeah.
What is this poem about?
I think the poem is about the poem, which means it's about presence.
Okay, the poem's about presence. Kamara, what's the poem about?
Wow. No, I'm floored.
We don't know what the poem's about. Come on, what's it
The
about?
poem's about keeping you in the poem.
Okay.
You want me to say more?
No, Zach, what's the poem about? You take a shot.
I think the poem is about, I think...
Let's start in the negative. What isn't Sid Corman saying in the poem?
He isn't saying that he doesn't have something to tell you. And he's saying...
no, he doesn't lack something to tell you, but it is the thing that results when he doesn't tell you what he has to tell you, right?
He has nothing to say, and he's saying it.
Well, that's John Cage. I actually think he has something to say, and he's not saying it. I could tell you something. I could tell you something you should know, but that's not what this is about. What this is about is Zach from Salt Lake. Dan Bergman's going to bail you out. Can we get the mic to Dan real quick? Here comes Dan via Michael.
Sorry. Contact over content. It isn't for want means I am not lacking. So the poem is about being fulfilled.
Dan, you're brilliant. Contact over content. Contact between what and what, Zach?
Between the reader and the poem?
Yes, between the poet and the reader, or the poem and the reader. That's contact. By the way, contact is a word that William Carlos Williams revered at the early stages of modernism, which meant what, Julia Block?
It was the name of a magazine, for
Yeah,
one.
and what did they mean by that? They loved contact.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of Whitmanian, actually. It was
Contact with the land, contact with the people.
Yeah.
But contact also means, Zach, here we go. This is taking a page from Dan Bergman. Contact also means the embodiment, which means the sound and the saying of the poem. It isn't for want, 5 syllables, of something to say, something to tell you. I'm speaking in 5-syllable lines. That is contact. Feeling myself here as long as you are. And so the poem is about not content, but contact. And what brings it home is the fact that the poem is all about its constraint. It's all about being syllables, not even words, but syllables. Sorry, Zach, I'm put you through the ringer here. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm glad to see things I didn't see in the poem.
Let's listen to Sid read this poem, and then we'll ask you one more question about it, Zach. All I want you to do is tell me what it sounds like. Here we go.
All right. It isn't for want of something to say, something to tell you, something you should know, but to detain you, keep you from going, feeling myself here as long as you are, as long as you are.
What do you think, Zach? What do you hear?
I hear a strong emphasis on the individual syllables.
Yes.
But obviously also on the last two lines.
Yes.
Which is from the emphasis on you to emphasis on you, on our.
So we begin with your observation that the poem is made of 5 syllables per line, and we end with your observation that when Sid reads it, you hear the syllables. So this poem is not about content. He could do a poem about content, but that's not what this is. And so, Jason, you've got a mic. What is it if it's not about content?
It's about contact.
That's what Dan said. Hey, Zach, thank you for calling, and I hope you stay actively with us through the 10 weeks.
I will.
And
Thank
call
you.
us again. Thank you so much. Julia, let's take a few more comments from the discussion forums.
Batya Rosenblum and our friend Yariv Perron, who we interacted with last week.
Both of them we've heard from.
Reminded me that there's a collaborative close reading of all of Song of Myself going on in the discussion forums.
Yes, and is there a thread?
Yeah,
a name of a thread?
If you basically, it's called
Pass the Canto.
Pass the Canto.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I think, who started that? Was it Eric that started it, or Yariv himself?
I think it's Yariv. Yeah. So if you go to the webcast,
there's a new thread that says,
right
Whitmanians, come join Pass the Canto.
Yeah, that's a good place to find
You know, I guess Kamara's going to start a whole thing in ModPo because she said she's a Dickinsonian, and now all the Whitmanians are coming out of the woodwork.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean
No,
to start a war.
Yariv is I've never met Yariv, but he's a really nice guy. He's just standing
There
up
are
for
also
himself.
lots of comments about people who don't want to have to choose, and people who like
Yes,
to
they're
go back
very
to it.
sensitive
It's okay.
about that. Don't choose so strongly.
Sorry, I feel very strongly about Dickinson.
You're
That's
not the only
good.
one. Yeah, you're
That's
not the only
good.
one.
Anything
But it's
else
okay.
worth passing
Kay
along?
Klinkenborg wrote about Williams as being a doctor. So Kay
Yeah.
wrote, the impact of being a physician influences Williams' poetry more than maybe we've been discussing. Having worked in hospital administration for over 20 years, it's terribly difficult for the doctor to leave work and not carry the egocentric self into his home. So I think we're thinking about Don's Roos a
Yeah.
little bit here.
Well, next week we're going to talk about Williams the Doctor, aren't we? Does anybody remember? Lily, do you remember why we talk about Williams the Doctor next week? Oh, you don't remember.
It's the end of a very long day.
Between walls, in the back
right.
wings of the hospital, where is that a good imitation? Where nothing will grow, lie cinders in which shine the broken pieces of a green bottle. That's pretty good. That's who needs Williams on his birthday? I'm trying to find that poem here, but wow. Let's see if this is Between Walls.
The back wings of the hospital.
Let's try it again.
Between walls, the back wings of the hospital, where nothing will grow, lies cinders, in which shine the broken pieces of a green bottle.
He did it exactly as we said he should. Bottle.
We've both heard that a lot.
Boy, so yes, the who was it that asked about the doctor?
I'm sorry, I closed the window.
That's all right.
Kay, I think it was.
So we will be back to Bill the doctor, because what he does there in that hospital is he's dealing with broken things. He's dealing with broken people. He's trying to heal people, and yet his modernist sensibility has him looking out there, and instead of seeing ugliness in the broken bottle, he sees something shining. He sees life, right? Where nothing will grow. at the hospital. You know what the hospital's like. There's nothing will grow, and yet that would be ironic in a hospital where we're supposed to make life. And Williams is really just, he's a Whitmanian modernist there. You know, he's a Whitmanian Dickinsonian, as Jason would remind us. Okay, we're going to wrap up, but there's someone who has a chance. Who, by the way, got the Bernstein?
It was John from Seattle, but we didn't get an address.
Okay, John from Seattle, we somehow need you to convey to us your mailing address. But the last person who calls will receive a copy of, Lainey Brown's, The Agency of Wind. Lainey Brown is, you unplugged the phone, that's why nobody can reach us.
Well, I just did it now because you said we were wrapping up.
Oh, you're so good at this.
There's still a chance to call.
Yeah.
Lainey Brown as a teacher.
You had Lainey Brown as a teacher, and we're giving away her book. So let's give Kamara some snaps for hanging out up here.
Kamara's a fantastic poet, so watch out for her,
fine
everyone.
poet. Watch out. So, Zach, we're just we're not able to do the Google Hangouts. And what are you saying to me? Are they showing any signs? You guys should have a final word. All of you, I don't know if you can hear me, Anna, Amaris, Allie, you need to write. Erica can hear us. You need to write a final word and hold it up to... Oh. So Zach's telling me that if you speak, other people can hear you, but we can't. So this is weird. Okay. So what's going to happen in a few minutes is you guys got to... So will they unmute themselves? You need to unmute yourself, and when I tell you to, do a final word, and when you're done with your final word, put your thumb up so I know you're done with your final word. This is very weird. Okay, but not yet. Not yet. But unmute yourselves. This is so weird. Okay, here's that last call, and it's going to be Lainey Brown's book, and who is it? This is crazy. We're giving things away. This is like the shopping channel. Omar, who knew it was going to be this fun?
It is late at night.
It is late at night, and here's Al. Do you ever find yourself wandering to your north room? You didn't like that little thing that I did.
I thought it was terrific.
You did like
it.
it.
It was awesome.
You're just wondering where I was going with it.
I just was starting to get alarmed and panicked messages about the echo, so I.
Oh, okay, all right. Lily, can you bring this person up, whoever it is?
Sorry, can you say it again?
She likes to do her preliminary hellos. And then once we've talked to this person and given this person Lainey Brown's book, we're going to get final words from the people in the little boxes.
While we're waiting, Dan, I just want to say a bunch of folks on Twitter really loved what you said about contact.
Dan Bergman, content,
when you get
contact,
a chance, check
not
out
content.
that feed.
Yeah. Dan's going to say something in response. Lily, who's on the phone? It was John. Well, I'm not giving you the book. Okay, now you can unplug the phone. All right. Did Dan have something to say in response to lots of praise from the forums, or? No, but he can't. You can't be heard because we need the microphone. And spell thanks. Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to do final words from our folks on the Google Hangouts, and then I am going to do some shout-outs, and we're going to wind up tonight. So, Allie Castleman, you're first. You're going to speak, and the people, everyone else can hear you, but we can't. So, put your thumb up when you're done with your final words. Go ahead, Allie.
Well, I don't really think that this is specific to necessarily the content of tonight's webcast, but I kind of think that the first couple of minutes of just the crazy infinite regress of reverb and just kind of playback that was happening, that most people, I assume, who were watching the webcast remotely experienced, was just a perfect, I don't know, like week 9 thing. And I really enjoyed it. It sounded a lot like the poetry that we eventually will get to. So for those of you who haven't been there, something to look forward to. And yeah, it was really fun. So.
Thank you so much, Allie, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Maurice, let's hear a final word and then give us a thumbs up. And Allie clicked out too.
Well, I really liked what Julia was saying earlier about a more optimistic reading of Lorna Decker's You Are My Friend. And I feel like that sense of fullness and fulfillment really tied together well with what Dan was saying about Sid Corman's poem. And I just really like that sort of philosophy of fulfillment out of what seems like emptiness or solitude. And I would say that for everyone who's currently struggling with the essays, to just sort of keep that in mind and feel that there is a source of inspiration within them that they can carry into these essays. That's all.
And Zach is back to me. We actually heard you, Amaris. It was great, but we had to be muted to do it, so thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so Zach, we're going to switch out and we're going to go to Anna, who just finds this all so hilarious. Anna, you're on. Final word.
Yes, this has been highly hilarious. I guess all that I will say is, Zach, whoever you are who called, you're fantastic. Stick with it. You're obviously doing great. And also, I also had a long exchange in my office hours with someone who was having a tough time with the essay, and to her and anyone else, I would just say stick with it. Do your own reading. You know, this is a chance for you to contribute your own thoughts to the crazy thing that we do around the table. So stick to the poem and do what you do.
Thank you, Anna, so much. We did hear that. That was terrific. Okay, we're now going to go to our correspondent in New Haven, Connecticut, Emily Harnett. Emily, final word from you.
Hi, Al, and everyone. Yeah, this was a sort of rare webcast experience, not just in the sense that they're all sorts of very interesting audio kind of avant-garde effects, but that it's a rare opportunity, I think, for us people in the boxes to be silent. And it's kind of fun being silent with you all and watching and sort of participating in this community in that way. It's a type of luxury. So yeah, it was just a pleasure to hear you guys, and maybe hear you guys multiplied over and over again. But I enjoyed it.
So much. That's great. Yeah, it is nice to have you silent every once in a while. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know I love you, and I love actually your final words, and that was a meta final word. So that's cool. Okay, we're going to go to Erica for our final word from remote.
Hi, everyone. I want to second what folks have been saying, and Dan is amazing. So Dan, thank you so much for your comments. They were fantastic, as was everything that I got to listen to. I guess my final words are that I'm left thinking about Niedecker and wondering if there in some alternate universe, could Niedecker actually be a Whitmanian? And that's what I'm thinking about.
Very cool. Thank you all. Julia, a quick final word, final thought from you? Anything at all?
I want to do a shout out to Miriam in Alexandria, Egypt, who started a thread suggesting that a bunch of folks get together and do a Skype study group, people who aren't necessarily related geographically.
Mm-hmm.
So Julie from Central Oregon chimed in, Laura from Mexico, and Jean also in Mexico, and people from all over the globe are going to Skype together.
So great. Such a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jason, a quick final word?
Yeah, the word that sticks out from the discussion is the word you. That's my final word.
I like that. You is the final word. Thank you. Lily, final word?
Yeah, I want to say that I saw a really cool thread pretty much right before I came down here today, which graphed kind of a Sid Cormanian reading onto You Are My Friend. And I guess I want to shout out, like, we've been talking about Whitmanian versus Dickinsonian modes, but it's also kind of fun to take other poets and perspectives through the course and see what they would say to each other in an intersubjectivity kind of way that can lead to really cool places.
That's great. So I'm going to shout out to a few ModPo people, but just a little program announcement. We are going to be starting week 3. We moved to chapter 2, which is on the rise of modernism. The course really gets going now as we enter the 20th century. We hope that here's a little cheerleading, we hope that you do it. We hope that you stay. If next week is busy, if work is collapsing on you, or there are lots and lots of family issues going on among ModPo people, do the best you can for your family and for your job, and spend a few hours with us as you can. Read not all the poems, but some of the poems. Watch not all of the videos, but some of the videos. Tune in to the webcast either live or on the recording. And next Tuesday, not Wednesday, we will be traveling. We're taking this show on the road. We're going to Washington, D.C., and Zach is just trepidatious about this because we're going to have to set the whole thing up in a foreign place, that is to say, not a familiar place. I guess Washington, D.C. is a little foreign, right? Yes, but we're going to the Folger Shakespeare Library next Tuesday. We hope all of our D.C. friends in Maryland and Virginia, maybe a few North Carolinians and West Virginians, will show up at the Folger Shakespeare Library at 7 p.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday to join us there for a full, crazy webcast. It'll be fun. Okay, shout out to some ModPo people. First of all, to Ken Fermoil. Ken is 80-something years old. I think he's actually well into his 80s. He's a writer, editor, photojournalist. He's been an author for 68 years with more than 2,600 articles published. He's written about Vietnam. He's written haiku. He's got a book coming out, Why the U.S. Lost the War, in November 2012. So that's an old bio. So that book is out. He got his first camera when he was I don't know when he got his first camera, but it's been a lifelong passion. He's been experimenting with digital cameras in the 1990s, since the 1990s, and he considers himself a guy he's like the old guy who can do the digital camera stuff. He's created one thread, 31 posts, 8 comments in ModPo. He's very active in the SoCal Poetry Peeps thread. And I'm not going to be seeing Ken, as I'll say in a minute, in Southern California, but I'm going to be in Los Angeles myself on Saturday, the 27th of September, and I hope a lot of people will meet me that Saturday morning. But Ken can't be there. Why? Because he's going to be in Palm Desert for a photo shoot, this octogenarian. He will definitely be able to make another meeting, but his nickname, he says, since 2007 has been Grandpa Moses of the Cyber Age, because he's been one of the few octogenarians doing contemporary digital art, and he gave us a sample in one of the threads. And Ken, you rock, man. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm so glad that you're part of ModPo and that you're so hip. Here's Meredith Lederer, who's a ModPo person. This morning I had a series of interactions with her. She watched the webcast on Sid Corman yesterday, and she really liked some of the new Corman poems that were read last night. And I posted the poems, a PDF of the poems, including a poem she really loved called At. And she says, thank you. Poems printed, coffee brewed, ready to rewatch the webcast and close read the morning away. At which point I thought, she's going to get to close read the morning away? How cool is that? So I wrote, wow, blissful prospect. And she wrote, blissful indeed. I feel as the mother in Sid's poem At, standing in the doorway, fingers of my one hand twisting and twining these poems onto the peg as my son wanders. He is not so small, young, he is 12 years old, but I still keep an eye on him, knowing that he is nearing the age of disappearing around the corner, out of my direct line of vision. I am amazed at how Sid captured this moment in my life so tenderly. At, by Sid Corman. The doorway, the fingers of one hand twisting raw wool into a tight yarn, and those of the other winding it onto a peg. She keeps an eye on the street, on her wandering young son. It seems to me that Meredith, who whiled away the morning doing close readings of Sid. Prior to having done that, produced a lovely poem about her own son and her own being a mom. And Meredith, I'm so glad you're with ModPo, and you're one of the stars, clearly. And then a shout out to Betty Bennett. Betty, like so many of you, is feeling behind. And a lot of people came to Betty's rescue and said, Betty, it's okay, it's okay. And there's only so much of that you can hear if you're feeling overwhelmed in the forums, and ModPo is so much. She's feeling behind. 3 days ago, she wrote, I forgot to say thank you to me for 830 Fireplace Road. That's the John Yao poem about Jackson Pollock. I much would have loved to have had that poem in my head when confronted with statements like, my grandson could paint that. Rock on, Betty. Betty is looking at modern art and finding a response to people who say it's easy. And then so she said she's feeling behind, and then she told some people who helped her out, told her it was going to be fine, and gave her some ideas about how to handle ModPo. And she wrote to somebody, your comment made me feel much better. I have been falling behind, which is very unusual for me, and has made me very nervous. Nice to know I am not alone. And then she wrote the same day, thanks, but I'm also feeling down at the moment, but not out. Betty. So I wanted to know a little more about Betty, and I went to her introduction. So here's Betty, who's feeling a little overwhelmed and a little out of it. This is our out of it Betty, okay? Here we go. I'm 84 years old. I'm a disabled veteran and the mother of 6. After my children were grown, I returned to college, got my degree, and worked for many years as an environmental specialist for the Federal Department of Transportation. No, I did not have anything to do with saving obscure little fishes, etc. The environmentalists I was saving, the environments I was saving were your homes, your jobs, and your neighborhoods. Thanks, Betty. These things are also important environments, and many were destroyed by careless highway and airport planning. After I grew up near Newark Airport, and I spent a lot of my youth like putting my fingers in my ears, so I know what you're talking about, Betty. After I quit work, became interested in art and work as a docent at the National Museum of Women in the Arts, 12th in New York, D.C., 1 block from the Metro Center, if anyone is interested, and not funded by your tax dollars. Funding is from donations from women around the world, as this is the only complete art museum dedicated to women's work. That's a parenthesis. And later, for the Orland Museum of Art, I'm now living in South Carolina and trying hard not to stand out like a sore thumb, which is difficult to do for a liberal Yankee in the heart of Dixie. That's Betty Bennett, who's feeling a little behind. And I just got to say, Betty, you can be behind in ModPo all you want. Thank you for a life of work, of energy. And I'd also say, anytime you feel like sticking out like a sore thumb, just come out and hang out with us in ModPo. Finally, Tom Morgan. Tom found Julia Block, my colleague in the thread, and we all instantly remembered that Tom Morgan, from Ohio, I believe, in the middle of ModPo, figured out that he needed major bypass surgery, which it wasn't simple bypass. It was, one of those where they had to open you up, spread your sternum and all that. And he was out of it for a while. And everybody in ModPo who really enjoyed posts by Thomas A. Morgan, Tom, they sent him virtual flowers. They urged him on. They coached him. They cheered him on. And as October became November, and then ModPo ended in mid-November, Tom Morgan joined Julia Block's special post-ModPo December discussion forum on Bernadette Mayer's Midwinter Day. And Tom joined it. And now he's back in ModPo, and he writes to Julia, good afternoon, Julia. I guess he came to your office hour.
He did.
I was stopping by her office, wherever that is, view my next video session and noticed that it was your time for office hours. Let me take a moment to thank you simply for being. Your discussion of Bernadette Mayer's Midwinter Day last December was such an important part of my recovery from heart surgery. I was still feeling a bit detached mentally at the time. Apparently, open heart surgery can really just make you depressed and very disoriented, right? It's a major intrusion. feeling a bit detached mentally at the time and reading her poem and coming here, in quotes, here, to read the discussions was a vital part of placing my brain back in its groove and letting it swerve at the same time. I learned that getting back to normal, which is in quotes, after surgery, is as much mental as physical. So thank you, I love you, and what you contribute to us so much. We've not met Tom, but we love you too, Tom. We really do. And the way that the ModPo community came around to support Tom and so many others who are having the normal human problems is very moving to all of us, and it is the main reason why we do what we do. So Ken and Betty and Meredith and Tom, you are ModPo people. You are part of the diversity of this crazy community, and you participate in the crowdsourcing of solutions not just to the problems that poems present us, but to the problems that life presents us. And we are not going to be able to do anything like this without you. So I want to thank everybody who's helped us today. Kamara, Inia, if we don't see you again before you return to Italy, best of luck, and tune in when you get to Milan, please. Omar, sorry we didn't get you on the mic, next time. Eric, as usual. Jason, as usual. Dan, thank you so much. You're wonderful, Dan. You add so much to this. Michael, too. Roger, Hillary, and Sammy. Hillary, welcome back to academia. Sammy, what do you think? She did all right. Yeah, she did all right. We didn't put Roger on the spot this time. But you guys came from Florida for this, so there you go. That's showing something. And to people who participated, a few of them, Seattle, John Mejia calling from Seattle, Philip Drexler, enjoy your book. Philip Drexler from Texas, Marie Laffler, Mark Snyder, as always, we love you, Mark. Good luck with your transition to a new job. Zach from Salt Lake, Batya, Yuriva, so many. Julia Block, you're the best. Thank you.
Did we say happy birthday to William Carlos
We
Williams?
didn't say happy birthday to William Carlos Williams.
Happy birthday, William Carlos.
Happy birthday, Bill. Doc, we're going to sing happy birthday to Bill. What do you think? Can we all do it? All right. You guys who are muted, you're still doing it. I want to see your lips moving. All right. Everybody out there. All right. Everybody. John in Seattle, it's still early enough for you to sing, right? Jason, you've got a mic. Why don't you hold it up to the crowd? It's mostly just Julia and me and Lily going to be sounding this out. But here we go. Happy birthday to Bill Williams. How old would he have been? 1883? Anybody do the math? Old, says Kamara. Bill Williams. Here we go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bill. Happy birthday to you. Good night to all Bill Williams fans. We're going to see much more of Bill. Thank you so much for joining us. Lily, you're the best. How are you?
Great.
Thanks. Zach, you're a champ. Boy, oh boy, they threw some but the internet gods threw some curveballs at you, but you did amazingly well. Jason, as always. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you in D.C. on Tuesday, and we'll see you in the forums. Good night.